Welcome to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. These are casual chats with visiting artists. Creaky barn, bugs, and all. Enjoy. Hey, welcome to Conversations from the Barn. I'm here with Chris and Warren, and we have our two special guests with us this week on retreat, Carlisle and Elle. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. The basic start, beginning question. How was your week?
It was the best week ever.
A little inside joke there, but yeah, we're going with it.
Yes, but it has been a really special week, I would say. I mean, it has been like the solstice week, and so there's like the most light there is any time of the year, which feels like extra time on this retreat, really, as artists. And I always think of solstice as being kind of this like portal where, more things can kind of slip through. And I've been feeling that here on the land with all the fireflies in the fields and everything. So yeah, it's been really magical.
Yeah, the land is so incredibly beautiful. To be able to, spend this entire week just making and walking in the woods or running in the woods or whatever, like all of those things together, to have that be your responsibility for the week was such a special time. And really, I think a lot came through. I'm really happy with what we were collaboratively working on and what happened this week creatively. Yeah.
We'll come back to the collaboration, but we've heard lots of different activities of what people do here. Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say I went running in the woods. Have you heard that?
No, I don't think so.
Truly, running in the woods, or
yeah. Well, not in these woods, but I have been running the loop.
I love it.
Out on the country roads, and that's spectacular. And there's the road that like sort of plunges down into the woods over here. That is my favorite part.
By the gravel road down here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For previous artists, they call it the classic 5 mile loop.
It is. Yeah.
Right. Left, 5 miles. There it is. I love it.
Yeah. It's great.
I have been delighted with you and for you that you got to play the piano in the barn in the rain all week. How kind of magical. How was that for you and for what kind of was birthed?
Yeah. So piano is my home instrument. And I also am really musically very inspired by natural sound and soundscapes of place. And pianos are not instruments that typically lend themselves well to being in a space that has a lot of natural sound, right? Because, how do you haul a piano into the outdoors? How do you haul a piano into the outdoors and
not abuse it?
Exactly, yeah, and not completely ruin the thing. So I've never had that experience aside from, I've never had that experience on a good piano. There's the downtown free pianos, yeah, in the summers in Minneapolis and lots of cities, but those are not this beautiful, magnificent instrument here. So yeah, I've never had an experience like that, like this one this week. And yeah, Chris, I think you said, and I really like the way that you said this, that the piano, how did you say it? You might have to remind me. We were talking about how the piano wants to be played.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I said that it wants to break hearts. And you said something like the piano is so, like there's some pianos that you have to put a lot of effort into making music out of. But this one just is like affluent with it. Like it just it's really an invitation for you to make something beautiful. So it's been amazing to hear the resonance of that piano with the birds singing all day long and the owls at night and the pitter patter of the rain as it's been working its way through. So
I feel like we should take a moment and give a shout out to our piano whisperer, Amanda Casanova, for the loving work that she put into restoring that piano over 3 years, and then donating it to Everwood so that you could have that exact experience. It's really kind of extraordinary.
it is, yeah. No, seriously, no place I've experienced like it. Yeah.
The heart of your, the piece the two of you are collaborating on this week is about Wisconsin, and about place and about ancestry. It seems you've had some kind of iconic Wisconsin moments with the Supper Club, and we had a lovely solstice gathering with our friends across the street. How, what have you discovered about Wisconsin? What kind of energy is showing up for you?
Yeah, well, I can start. My father's family is from Wisconsin, actually. They are Norwegian and German Swiss, and he was raised on a dairy farm. And my grandfather was a dairy farmer and a Swiss cheesemaker. He ran a cooperative dairy in Wisconsin, and so I've heard a lot of lore about Wisconsin from his upbringing stories, but I haven't spent a lot of time here, and wasn't sure, what it would feel like. And it has been really special to just spend time in the quiet, because that's when other voices can speak to you. And I do feel at home here, more than I sort of thought that I would. And I also feel kind of the presence of other spirits here that live on this particular land, and that is so cool, especially as a playwright. You're just sort of hearing voices all the time, you're making these voices talk to each other, and to sort of get new input when you're in creative process is just it's very exciting and very generative.
So we're working on a musical, and I'm a songwriter and composer.
And I'm a playwright and librettist. Yeah, and it's called The Co-op Wars. It is based on some little-known radical Twin Cities history that involves Western Wisconsin, about the hippies and the communists of the late 1960s, early 1970s counterculture. And this moment when they kind of literally went to war over the fate of these natural food co-op grocery stores, which is kind of wild to think, because, imagine these hippies who are all
love and
peace, love. Yeah, exactly. Taking over warehouses by force and blowing up vehicles and all of that, because of canned goods and soda pop threatening their stores. So it's pretty dramatic on its own.
Yeah.
Where is this research coming from? Where are you getting these stories?
Well, I think it'd be cool to talk about some of the stories we got just before we came to Everwood.
Yeah. Well, I'll say first that there's a book written about this history, The Storefront Revolution.
Yeah, The Storefront Revolution. You can check that out. And
Yeah.
there's a PBS documentary that you can stream online that's also called The Co-op Wars.
Yeah, which was my entry point into the history. And there's another thing I was thinking of. It's this history's archived too in the Twin Cities. But we have also had the great honor to be able to speak with some people who were involved in that history, who were actually on the ground involved in these events at the time, and including last Friday, a week ago, after Elle had just arrived from Pittsburgh, we drove out to western Wisconsin, not far from here, Star Prairie, near Star Prairie, to interview a man by the name of Keith Rana, who was one of the people who was involved in the starting of the co-ops and had a farm in western Wisconsin that was intimately tied to the starting of these co-op stores. And we had the privilege of just sitting and talking with him and hearing the stories directly from him, talking about this time period and like the idealism of the time period, the idealism that he still carries today, just these absolutely wild events. There were some nuggets in the meandering storytelling that were just like, how, like, really, that happened? You did that? This other person did that? Like, it's incredible. And so, he was the one of a few of these individuals that we've spoken to, and it's amazing to speak to these elders about their lives. And we've had,
and to have them be so excited too. Like the first interview we did, one of our interviewees like revealed that she'd only gotten 4 hours of sleep the night before because she was so excited to talk with us.
I love it.
And we sort of heard similar things percolating from like other people we've been interviewed. Like we weren't sure what the reception would be because, the nature of some of these events, like people might not be as willing to speak, but I've been so surprised and heartened and encouraged. And I really feel like what inspired me to start this with you was, thinking about my place in this generational cycle and, how is the next generation going to know that we also tried? And now I feel like, I'm also doing it for these elders that we now get to be in conversation with around this piece.
Is there a message you're hoping to get across through the piece? Have you come to a conclusion? I think the working hypothesis, and forgive me if this sounds trite, and please, Carlisle, jump in, but there is no conclusion. That I think that, there is such a binary thinking can really sort of do a disservice when it comes to revolutionary thoughts and progressive action and all of that. And it's, when you listen to these stories, you realize just how much, these hippies did accomplish. And like the evidence is there. Like I shop at the co-op, you know what I mean? And even if, there aren't the same sort of brick and mortar results with everything, like the ideas and the belief, I feel gets carried through. And I think it's our responsibility to carry that through and to let ourselves kind of get wrapped up in it, and that's something that's so great about a musical. Is like that's what musicals invite you to do. They invite you to just kind of like throw your heart into this big energetic spectacle, and so it feels really right with the style we're telling the story in.
I love the excitement of the interviewers. If following Chris's question, like what do you hope the interviewers, like the message, what's the message that you think that the interviewers want to come through this story?
Like who, the people we've been speaking with?
The interviewees, sorry.
Yeah. We've been asking versions of that question with each conversation, and that the things that the radical activists in the 60s and 70s were fighting for, were working for, were marching for, were organizing for, like those same things are the same things that we're dealing with today. So much was transformed and accomplished in that time period, and like the problems that they were fighting against didn't go away, and in many ways have just intensified. So like the boldness and the vision of that time period, like wanting that same sentiment of like working together to achieve radical transformation of society, to create a society that like everybody can feed themselves and be free and be happy and raise a family well, you know, all of these like very fundamental human things, without having to like break yourself over capitalism. Like the building a like really meaningful relationship with place and with nature and with the food that you eat, and this sort of like very fundamental human relationship with the natural world. Like all of these things are still significant and have to be fought for if that's going to be a future at all. And I think that that's what I've heard these elders say in various forms, that like what they believed in is still relevant and needs to be valued today, and they like want to see that carried on. Yeah.
And if could I add
Please.
something onto that? Yeah, I think one thing that's just felt really right being here, we're working on the beginning of the musical, which is set on a commune in western Wisconsin, and
Called Whatever.
well, I was going to talk to you about it later. But you know, like one of the things that this week has sort of offered me, at least, is sort of like a little bit, just like a couple layers of reprieve from capitalism. You know, just like having like this beautiful place to stay, and you know, food at hand, and like people who care, and you know, land to explore and all of that, and being, you know, outside of that grind mentality, I think has been really wonderful for just like bringing me closer imaginatively to these hippies and to their vision and what they were trying to build together, and sort of the way that, you know, the little ways that you know, I felt cared for at Everwood have felt, you know, like really, you know, aligned with kind of like how these hippies were setting up their commune. Like you were saying yesterday, Chris, like, you know, you borrow things from your neighbors, and you know, they don't want you to buy your own thing because they've got the thing, and like that's exactly it. You know, you don't have to be a hippie to have that mentality, but it does require kind of that like imaginative kind of courage to take a step beyond and to really live into different ways of relating.
Yeah. And you also literally got to have a taste of, this does not mean lack or scarcity. You know, you go to a neighbor's place, and I just picked up this cheese at the local farm that's on the honor system, that you just pick it out of the cooler, and I made the sourdough, and I made the butter, and you brought and all of a sudden we sit at this spread, and Wade made the beer. And it's like, this would rival any top level restaurant in any big city. Because it was all made, and it was all fresh, and it was just in the ground this morning, and it was brought with care. And there's also that reminder that in the simplicity and the connection again with the earth, that, I mean, this is the abundance that is actually at our fingertips is extraordinary.
Yes.
The beauty of this week, the beauty of this time, we're sort of joking about the best week ever. The fireflies, the peonies, the
Baby deer.
That's the one thing. Did we get to see the baby fawns?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
That is perhaps my favorite time, or part of this time of year, is those little baby fawns.
Yeah.
I saw one today 3 times in our backyard by itself, and I started to panic, and I texted a friend like, I think the baby fawn has lost its mother, and he assured me that they have all the capability, like they can be apart from each other for a while, and they will magically find each other. And sure enough, within about 2 hours, I saw them bopping around again together. So They're back together.
He was smoking a cigarette behind the barn.
Getting a little tattoo.
And then he got a
Getting a
text.
tattoo.
Mom,
That's
where
right.
are you?
Where are you?
Finally away from mom.
Reindeer games at 3. Where are you?
That's right. We have a question that we traditionally close all of our podcasts with. And so we'll ask it of the two of you. And that is, how have you experienced beauty today?
I went on a walk in the rain today, down the trails, and I made a stop at the bees. And I have kept bees before, but it's been a long time since I've had or it feels like it's been a long time since I've had a hive. So it was really nice to get to sort of like tap in to them. Like, you just stand still and watching their flight patterns, you know, like they don't care that you're there. They're just, you know, like on a mission to sort of gather pollen and nectar. And I love that it's the elder bees in the hive that are the foragers. So they give kind of the most adventuresome tasks to their elders, and their elders get to just kind of like hang out with the flowers and gather all this sweetness. And so yeah, it was really special to spend some time with them today.
That's a beautiful thought. Top that, Carlisle.
I know. How do I top that?
Because this is competitive.
It is. Yeah, it is competitive.
There are winners
No,
and
I had
losers.
the best week ever. I love the prairie. I love the prairie, and I was out walking the prairie, the longer trail that goes deeper into the prairie, and I like to notice the wildflowers. I like to notice the ones that I can identify, like when it's this season for this flower, and there's so many that are just waiting. Like the lushness of the prairie is so wonderful right now, and there's not a lot blooming, but the incredible variegation of the prairie with all of the different types of foliage and how like potently green and lush it is right now, especially against like the gray rainy sky. I really appreciated that on today's walk, especially. And it's so, I have so many questions for a different time about the prairie, because it's such a special thing to have such a beautiful patch of prairie in the Midwest in 2024, you know, and that's just such a precious and rare thing. Yeah. It's the type of landscape that I grew up with too. So it's something that feels really familiar and nostalgic and home.
One of my favorite parts about that question, I think Chris will agree, is the responses we get always inspire us and remind us about what we have. And after 14 years, sometimes we take for granted. And so those were both really special responses that will resonate with me. So thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for the beauty and the creativity you brought to Everwood this week. It's been just a pleasure to have you both here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure to be here as well.
Stay in touch, would you?
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. Our theme music is provided by John Mark Nelson. Wishing you all good health.